The notification about the purchase of a $3.2 million villa arrived on my son's phone at 10:47 a.m. By noon, my phone was hotter than an iron. At that moment, I was opening champagne alone, standing barefoot on white marble. Panoramic windows, smooth water behind the glass, silence. I looked at the phone and thought, well, now you definitely won't forget my birthday. My name is Nora Whitmore. I am 64. I am a widow, a former financial manager, and a woman who has been mistaken for comfortable furniture for too long. On my birthday, I usually cooked, smiled, and tried not to bother anyone. But this time, I didn't remind anyone of the date or myself. I just let everyone forget, and saw what would happen. If you've ever felt like an outsider in your own family, stick around. Write in the comments when you realized it was time to take action. Click subscribe if you know what it's like to be too nice for too long. Trust me, it only gets more interesting from here. On March 16th, the house was silent. Not solemn, not calm. Empty like an unopened postcard. In the corner of the refrigerator lay a cupcake with expired frosting, bought by me, just in case. I walked through the kitchen, took the tablecloth off the oval table, and folded it neatly, as if someone had come, eaten, laughed, and left a trace. No one came. Sorry, Mom. Everything is so chaotic this year. But we'll definitely get together later. Ethan sent this message at 9:12 a.m., a minute after posting a photo in the chat. Lily in a bathrobe, Vivian with champagne, mountains of snow outside their hotel window. I scrolled through the message to the end, then just closed the screen. My fingers were shaking, not from anger but rather from the cold, and from the fact that I had nothing more to say. Even last year, I left a reminder in the form of a cake ordered in advance. Even last year it was important to me that they at least pretend. This time I just cleaned the kitchen. No sounds, no complaints, no pain on display. I wiped everything away. Crumbs, expectations, the habit of hoping. Then I took a dress out of the closet that no one had seen and hung it on the door. Let it hang there. Tomorrow a different movie will begin. For the first time I didn't remind them. Not during the week, not during the day, not even in the morning. I didn't send a photo of the old cake, I didn't bring up the date in conversation. I just crossed March 15th off the family calendar and left it blank, like an unfinished shopping list. In the morning I put my phone in a desk drawer and locked it. Physically with a lock, as if I were protecting not the device but the silence. My shoulders were tense like a clothesline in the wind. It seems to be holding, but it feels like it's about to snap. Any plans for the weekend? Lily asked innocently 2 days earlier. I nodded. It's still open. It was almost pleasant to see how quickly she reacted. An hour later, a photo of spa tickets arrived, and 2 hours later, a list of treatments that could help Vivian recharge. I didn't react. I didn't play the hurt card. I didn't set traps. I just stopped being the one who always goes along with things, one step at a time. On the morning of my birthday, I put on earrings that I hadn't worn since my husband's funeral. The cold metal against my skin was a reminder. I'm still here. Whole, grown up, capable. I spent the whole day in silence. But it wasn't empty. It was heavy like a door that I had finally closed from the inside. On the third day of silence, my back started to hurt. Not from age, but from restraint. I was lying on the sofa, staring at a crack in the ceiling, when I caught myself thinking a strange thought. What if I didn't remind not only my family, but also myself of my existence? I got up, poured myself some cold water, and went to the window. Outside the glass was gray March, and in the front yard were traces of someone's dog. Nothing beautiful. Nothing that truly belonged to me. I held my smartphone in my hands with unexpected ease. It was as if someone had been persuading me to make a call for a long time, and I had finally agreed. Jennifer? This is Nora Whitmore. Remember we talked 5 years ago about the house by the water? I'm ready. There was silence on the other end. Then the voice softened. Are you serious? Absolutely. Find me a place with floor-to-ceiling windows, a terrace, and a view that takes your breath away. Money is no object. Pause. Nora, are you okay? I looked at my mug. Ceramic with Mother of the Year stamped on it. A gift from 10 years ago. Everything's fine, I said. I just decided I could have my own thing too, even if it costs $3.2 million. The road to the house wound through pine trees, and at one point I thought it was a mistake. Too wild a slope, too expensive a sky, too far from everything. But when the gate opened, I froze. Not because of the scale, but because of the silence. It was different from the silence in my house. Not resentful, but confident. Jennifer walked ahead, wearing heels and a strict raincoat, but I lagged behind. I needed to slow down. I didn't just want to walk in. I wanted to hear how my footsteps sounded in this space. The first thing I saw was a floor-to-ceiling panoramic window. The second was the ocean, flat and heavy as iron. And me. Me in the reflection, without makeup, with gray strands of hair, but unexpectedly alive. It's uninhabited, but it has potential, Jennifer said, waiting. I nodded, walked over to the kitchen, and ran my fingers over the cool marble countertop. I used to stroke such surfaces in other people's homes as a guest. Now I touched them as the hostess. I walked slowly through the house, as if my body were choosing what to remember. The ceilings were high, the doors heavy, the air filtered. When I entered the bedroom, my chest tightened. Not from pain, from freedom. The withdrawal notification arrived at 10:47. The transaction was successful. $3.2 million. I sat on a bench in front of the house, holding hot coffee in a plastic cup. Opposite me was the ocean. Next to me was a contract signed in black ink that had dried up. The first call came 7 minutes later. The screen read, Ethan. Then again. And again. Are you okay? What house is that? Did you hack someone's account? Messages poured in like peas on glass. I didn't open a single one. The phone lay next to me like a ticking bomb. Inside, I felt as if I were covered in honey and sand at the same time. Sticky, tight, and strangely calm. Do you even understand what you're doing? Another message, then a voice message, then a photo of the bank app header. I glanced at the screen as if through thick glass. My fingers were cold, like after a winter without gloves. My shoulders, on the other hand, were heavy, as if carrying something that didn't belong to me. Music was playing in the house behind me, turned on by a random radio station. Jazz, abrupt, discordant. I listened to it as if it were my own voice, just as fragile and disjointed. By 2 p.m. I had 17 missed calls, and not a single one said, "Happy birthday, Mom." When I heard the familiar phrase, regarding an unexpected transaction, my heart sank almost automatically. The bank's finance department called to clarify. "Is this really your initiative, Mrs. Harper?" "Yes," I said calmly, but inside, another dialogue was already taking place with the past. It was in this very spot that I once walked with Aunt Grace. She laughed then. "I'd buy a house like this, but who needs it when you're alone?" I thought she had given all her money to charity. I didn't even expect to receive a cent after her death. But the second part of the call changed everything. And also, the voice continued, "You haven't checked the investment trust opened in your name for a long time. The last activity was 13 years ago. Interest has accumulated there." "What interest?" I stood up, holding the phone with both hands. My knees felt weak like at my high school prom. "About $7.3 million, Mrs. Harper. An inheritance set up through Aunt Grace's trust. It's still active." Memories came flooding back. Her letters, her neat Christmas cards, and once, a gold brooch engraved with the words, "Be noticed, even when you are silent." I sank down onto the porch steps. A light mist hung over the sea. The numbers were on my knees, and something hot was in my chest. $7.3 million. It turns out that Aunt Grace believed in me more than my son did. For the first time, I opened a bottle of wine for no reason. No guests. No cooking show in the background. Just because I wanted to. I found a wine corkscrew in a drawer by the refrigerator. New, unopened. Jennifer must have thought of everything, even this detail. The house was cool and I didn't turn on the heat. I walked barefoot on the stone floor, feeling my feet ache from the cold tiles. I wanted this evening to be mine. Not family, not dinner, not proper. Mine. The light from the fireplace reflected in the glass. I didn't know how to light it yet, so I just put a candle there. The fire still warmed me if I looked at it long enough. I made pasta. Not according to a recipe. Not on a whim. I just threw everything that was in the fridge into a pan. Without fear of spoiling it, without trying to please anyone. On the table was a plate, a napkin, and only one piece of cutlery. I didn't put anything extra on the table. Not to save money, but on principle. I turned on some music, old jazz like in the movies I used to watch alone when everyone else was asleep. Now no one was asleep. No one was disturbing me. I allowed myself everything I had previously put off until later. I drank wine at the table, where no one interrupted my desires. For 7 years in a row, I cut the cake at exactly 7:30 p.m., even if no one came. The first year I explained to myself, Lee was studying, Lily was working shifts, Jake was traveling. Everything was fine. The second year, there were no candles on the cake. I didn't want to make the same wish, knowing it wouldn't come true. The third year, I brought the candles myself. The numbers 52 were made of plastic with glitter. They melted, unable to withstand the heat. I watched the numbers melt and thought how symbolic it was. Even the wax was tired of holding its shape. In the fourth year, Lily ordered the cake. Chocolate, which I don't like. She sent a photo and wrote, "Everything is fine with us, Mom. I hope everything is fine with you too." The fifth year, I pretended to forget. But when my neighbor from across the street called out, "Happy birthday," I cried right over the trash can. The sixth year, they called. Together. On speakerphone. I heard Jake whisper, "Mom, are you there? Say something." I didn't say a word. And the seventh, the cake was strawberry, mistakenly delivered to an address where I no longer lived. They didn't notice. Every March it's the same scene. Only the candles are different, and the loneliness is deeper. I wasn't spying. I was just going for coffee. The road led downhill, past a busy intersection where antiques used to be sold. Now there is a new gastropub with a summer terrace and sand-colored wooden umbrellas. I stopped at the traffic lights, resting my hand on the steering wheel. A dark gray SUV was parked nearby, and I noticed a familiar silhouette. Lily. Her hair was tied back in a bun, and on her wrist was the very bracelet I had given her for graduation. Jake was sitting next to her, a napkin in his collar, a wine glass in his hand, laughter that was too loud. Something inside me suddenly fell apart. I checked my phone. Notification. "Mom, we're at the hospital with Lee. I'll call you later." They didn't see me, and I didn't look away. It seemed that if I blinked, they would disappear. Or I would. The salad in Lily's hand shook with laughter as she pointed at something on the screen. There was a certain cruelty in it, an absolute lightness. I couldn't even come up with an excuse. Not for them, not for myself. Maybe I wouldn't have noticed. I wouldn't have gone out for coffee. I wouldn't have looked up. But now this knowledge is like a splinter under my fingernail. Small but sharp. In the car window I saw them, champagne, laughter, and that same lie with vertigo. "Mom, you should think about renting. This house is irrational." He said it without even looking around. He walked past the rose-covered garden archway as if it were a passageway to his office. "You do understand that the taxes are different here, right?" Jake adjusted his cuffs as if he were discussing an investment portfolio. "Not my life." I remained silent. I stroked the surface of the kitchen table with my fingers, as if testing its strength. "We can find you something comfortable without all this." He glanced back at the panoramic windows, behind which the wind swayed the lavender. I remembered how I had chosen this house. By myself. With my own eyes, heart, and body. Not a single Excel spreadsheet. Not a single one of his recommendations. "Have you talked to the lawyer yet?" I asked calmly. He tensed slightly. "Yes. Just to make sure you don't overpay or spend more on candles than on heating." I smiled. Sharply. Feminine. Something sharp flashed in his eyes. Maybe irritation. Maybe fear. He was beginning to understand. I was no longer predictable. You became my supervisor, and I became your cost-cutting project. They arrived without warning. Lily was dressed in light colors, with beads of sweat under her armpits. Vivian had a sleek folder and a look in her eyes that conveyed more anxiety than love. "Mom, we were worried." "It's good that we worry, right?" Vivian added, without taking off her glasses. There were 3 cups on the table. 2 remained untouched. They walked around the house in a circle like paramedics assessing safety. "The steps are too shallow. What if you fall? The kitchen knife is blocking the drawer. That's not safe." I followed them silently, barefoot. Lavender was blooming by the window. I planted it myself. With my hands wearing gloves with silence in my head. It was mine. Are you often alone? Lily sat down on the edge of the sofa, as if on a pin. It's not loneliness, Lee. It's a choice. It's just that, Vivian, I thought. The catalogs lay on the table. Colorful glossy covers with smiling older women holding dumbbells and yogurt. There are good doctors here. And company. You've always been so sociable. I remembered how they left with the cake. To a different address. And how I didn't say a word. They brought catalogs from places where people are praised for still being able to walk. Wine warms you up quickly if you don't try to earn it. I sat on the porch, my bare feet touching the woven rug I had chosen myself, not to match the curtains, but to match the color of the morning sky. Vivian was talking on the phone. Through the crack in the open window I heard, "She hasn't signed anything yet. No, she says she wants to stay." Pause. And a little more quietly, "No, she sounds sober." Their concern always came with control. Lily was making coffee. 3 cups like a ritual. She was silent, but her gaze was full of reproach. Not for anything specific. Just for the fact that I was still here. "Mom, it's not for long, right? You understand that yourself." I looked at the spoon she had forgotten to take out of the mug. The metal was trembling slightly. Or was it my hand that was trembling? They didn't leave me a single question where I had the right to say, no. In the catalog with a glossy woman on the cover, someone had neatly folded the corner of the page. The section was psycho-emotional well-being. Just think, Lily came closer. No one wants to hurt you. I nodded. So they would leave me alone. So they wouldn't hear. They weren't afraid for me. They were afraid that I was out of control. Some folders in the closet are only opened once. This one was dark blue with bookmarks and the smell of a fresh printing press. Even though it had been lying there for what seemed like an eternity. It was neatly labeled, medical and other. Lily always sorts everything by color. I leafed through it aimlessly, just to keep my hands busy. Prescriptions, test results, cardiologist's recommendations. And then suddenly, a tax form in his name. A refund for the purchase of real estate on behalf of a relative. The word relative sounded faceless like a diagnosis. I stopped. The line authorized representative was filled in clear, confident handwriting. Mine. Only not mine. Mom, you have no idea how much I've taken care of this past year. My son's voice in my memory. There's so much paperwork, you wouldn't be able to figure it out anyway. He signed my name as if I were a function, not a person. Under the checkboxes. Expenses for equipment, repairs, pharmacy purchases. But not according to my receipts. Amounts I had never seen. I took out the last page. The refrigerator warranty. In the corner was my signature. But it was rounded like a schoolgirl's. Under the refrigerator warranty was a fake signature. Mine. Calls from the bank always start politely. But this voice already knew that I didn't understand what he was talking about. Please confirm the increase in the limit on the Platinum Plus card. I don't have that card, I said. Pause. Then. But it's registered to you. 2 years ago. My shoulders tensed, as if the room had grown colder. I opened my laptop. There was no point in playing I don't want to know anymore. 5 minutes on the website, 3 clicks, and I was in someone else's game. Notifications popped up like bruises. $820 for a corporate lunch. $1,450 for a spa in Lisbon. Large transfers, as part of family asset management. Every month like clockwork. Joint account access. User Nicholas U. I remembered how upset he was when I forgot my PayPal password once. Come on, Mom, you'd be better off living in the woods. He wasn't joking. He was building a forest. Out of passwords, powers of attorney, and lies. My credit rating plummeted as quickly as my faith in my own son. She walked into my living room as if she were bringing peace. Lily was always precise. In her intonation, her gestures, her choice of nail polish color. You look refreshed, she said and put a bag on the table. I nodded so as not to reveal the trembling in my fingers. Refreshed? From what? From betrayal? Behind her politeness stood someone with a calculator. She sat down, folding her hands as if in morning meditation. Nick and I want to talk. We're worried. We feel responsible. We. Not I. I remembered how she cried in my kitchen a year ago. He doesn't hear me. You're the only one who can explain it to him. And now here she was on his side, on the side of numbers, balance, and control. Don't think this is an intervention. It's concern. She spoke in a tone that already sounded like a verdict. I got up. I walked over to the bag. I opened it. Inside was a snow globe with a miniature chalet and the inscription, "Home is where you are loved." Lily stood next to me and touched my hand. "We really want to help you." I looked at the glass ball, where plastic flakes were frozen in eternal winter. She brought a snow globe. I would have preferred the truth. The doorbell rang like a gunshot in the museum's silence. I turned off the stove. The soup was still boiling, an empty ritual. Lily appeared at the peephole. Her face tense, her hair wet from the rain, and her car headlights off. "Can we talk?" I didn't open the door. She stood there for a moment. Then, "This is your home too, Mom." "But it's ours." "Ours." I noticed how easily she dismissed me. Her fingers rested on the doorknob. There was a scratch on it, from that very night when Nick tried to get in without a key. Lily was speaking louder now. "I just want everything to be like it used to be. You want that too, don't you?" "No, I don't." On the windowsill was a cup with a lipstick ring. Mine. And no one else's. I took a step back. Behind me, the clock struck midnight. "You don't understand," she whispered through the glass. "It's an illusion." But I chose this illusion instead of their reality. A minute later she was gone. Only the rain remained, and the buzzing trace of her uninvited presence. She stood on my porch at 11:30 p.m. with her headlights off. The sun wasn't warm that day, but it wasn't hiding either. For the first time in a long time, I opened all the curtains. The light swept across the floor, as if it were peeking into the house without permission for the first time. Yesterday's coffee stood in a cup in the kitchen. In the hallway was a catalog of supervised country houses, forgotten by Lily. But now I knew. Lily wasn't Lily. I spent the night on my laptop in archives on forums where people search for their exes. On my phone, a screenshot of her passport. Mother's name, Vivian Warren. Coincidence? I whispered. Or a puzzle? My fingers trembled, not from fear but from clarity. Sarah Warren, 1986. Arrested for forgery. Then a name change. Then another. I remembered how Lily held her glass with both hands. How she avoided cameras. What about the childhood photo? I asked once. Our house burned down. The lie seemed sad then, but now it seemed too convenient. The clock on the wall ticked like a jury. I looked at it and didn't hear a single happy story from her past. Not a single friend, not a single aunt. Only Vivian. My sister-in-law was born Sarah Warren, not Lily Whitmore. I expected him to arrive angry, but he arrived silent. He held an umbrella in his hands, even though it wasn't raining. A habit of protecting himself from the elements, even when the sky was clear. I didn't invite him into the house. He came in on his own. "Did you find out everything?" he asked. I nodded. He sat down on the chair, the same one my father used to sit in. "Do you want me to explain? Or do you want me to confess? Is that the same thing?" He looked at me and for the first time didn't look away. In his pupils I saw something he had hidden behind games and success throughout my childhood. "I was afraid, Mom. You were stronger than anyone else. And then suddenly you were alone. And I thought, if we controlled everything, you wouldn't fall apart. Didn't you think I could do it myself?" He laughed bitterly. "You didn't let me. Ever." Pause. I did everything wrong. Everything. I moved closer. My son's face was confused, just like the day he broke the vase and couldn't lie. "Did she know everything?" I asked. "Yes. You'll pay her back." He nodded. And suddenly, as if from another time, from the boyish part of his soul, his lips trembled and his chin quivered. He cried for the first time since his father's death. Not for the money but for the truth. Vivian's voice was like icy silk, slippery but cutting. "Hello, dear. I hope you don't think it's all over." I stood by the window with the phone in my hand. I saw the wind moving the curtain, the only thing that was yielding at that moment. "What do you want?" I asked. "Just justice. You don't want some old stories to come back, do you?" I didn't need any clarification. "Is this about my husband?" "It's about your family. About everyone who seemed clean but drank from murky waters. She knew. About the land deeds transferred through a chain of straw names. About the accounts my husband forgot to close. I remained silent, because the unspoken holds power longer than the spoken. You don't deserve loneliness, June. But you don't deserve the light either. Who are you to decide? Pause. I'm the one who knows how to remember. My throat tightened. My eyes showed not fear but fatigue. Vivian played by her own rules. But I was no longer going to be a pawn. She knew about my husband's schemes. But I knew where fear ended. When I took off the ring, it left a pale mark. Not from the gold, but from the years. Next to it on the table were documents. Copies of wills, statements, a new signature. Real, not fake. In the mirror, a woman with smoothly combed hair and a half-empty gaze. Who are you now? I asked aloud. Silence did not answer. But something like heat warmed beneath my skin. I thought recovery would begin with revenge. But it began with silence. With an hour where no one knocked on the door or dictated how I should feel. The room smelled of mint and pollen. Spring, not worry. Vivian was gone. Lily was silent. My son wrote, but without voice, only text, as if he were afraid of my new sound. I raised my head. For the first time in 6 months. Have you decided on a name for the new account? Asked the girl at the bank. I nodded. Yes. My fingers were trembling, but not from fear, from finality. My signature came out angular and uncertain, but honest. Nora. Just Nora. She smiled. It's a beautiful name. I am no longer a mother, a widow, or someone's rescue project. I am Nora, and I am here.